Hello, everybody. Welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. And as always, I also publish on Rumble and on Patreon for extra support. Um, Yesterday, I didn't do anything, and Monday, I also didn't manage to get the live stream on Death Stranding 2. Um, Between a little bit busy and to be quite honest, I did restart. I also mentioned this when I played Death Stranding 1. There is some mechanics also in Death Stranding 2, some mechanics, some aspects of the game that remind me a little bit of Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. And I recently restarted again when I'm not streaming from like a couple of sessions here and there because the way Metal Gear Solid 5 is structured is kind of mission based. So you can play like half an hour, 1 hour, depending on how long you go about it. And yeah, I basically restarted from scratch. So I erased all the data, even though from the save games, but even though it doesn't erase everything. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of a little bit hooked up there with Metal Gear Solid 5. Again, when it came out in when I played, I spent more than 200 hours on that. I didn't do everything in the game, but yeah, there is a lot of similarities on the approach of gameplay systems and other stuff there. But yeah, other than that, I will try to do some live stream, of course, of Death Stranding 2. Again, I'm only playing that game when I do live stream, so it's something that I want to continue to pursue. But yeah, on the side, I'm basically a little bit hooked up again on Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. Again, it still holds up given that it's a 10 plus, 10 years game. Again, the game is not being updated for a long time now. Um, the graphics, again, I think at the time when the game was created, the engine is being pulled to the max, basically. There are some issues with the game engines, with the, comparing to some standards that we are expecting there. Uh, Other than that, the gameplay systems still work good. I still see some stuff that was a little bit ahead of its time, more in line with usually how Kojima works out, ways you approach stuff there, the way the maps were created, and the replayability of everything. It's a little bit was translated to Death Stranding 2. Again, you go about going to the same places. You can tackle the same places in a different way, depending how you are on the game, with more tools or not to approach those. Let's say in the case of Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2, like the bases, even how you approach the way you go about doing the deliveries to a certain aspect. Again, it's a completely different game in the sense that what it tries to do in overall scheme. But again, they are very. It's kind of the same philosophy as how Kojima does go about doing things. Um, Probably I will have to, in the meantime, go about checking older games from Kojima, especially Metal Gear Solid. Um, I will not be able to do that on Metal Gear Solid 4. I think it's only console PlayStation exclusive. Sorry, but there is the maybe I need to go to GOG, the Metal Gear Solid 1, one of the games, first games that I played in PlayStation 1 when it came out 26 years ago, basically. Again, it's one of those games that blew my mind when I played it. Yeah, it's one of those kind of franchises, even though with positives and negatives. Again, it blew my mind at the time when I played Metal Gear Solid, the first one in 2000, I think, a few months after it came out. But yeah, again, I will try to do some continue with my fixed schedule, gaming news program during the weekdays, and again later at my night time before going to bed to do some couple of hours of live stream. I will maintain that. But now I had the extra thing of getting hooked again on Metal Gear Solid 5 there. Yeah, other than that, let's go for some news. Similarly, Corsair now has a new 16-pin cable for the 12-volt power pin. It seems that it automatically shuts down, mainly because it has a thermal protection feature in the cable itself. It's here. I think this is basically a sensor that detects the power and basically automatically shuts down the GPU when it reaches a certain amount of temperature. Again, it only reinforces the fact that this 12-volt power ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, is a flawed design. Given that this is not the first one, the first manufacturer of PSUs and all that jazz to come up with this. ASUS already has something there, if not mistaken. I don't remember, but okay. There are a couple of them that already came up with this. I know ASUS. I covered that, the ASUS one. Yeah, ASUS, ASRock, and MSI. MSI also. I covered that one. Again, this one is in the sense it is basically a shutdown. Shut down the power. Again, it's not healthy because again, if you're doing, I don't know, some work, again, if you're playing games, again, it can be a little bit distressing if the GPU just shut down all of a sudden. But if you're work and you're using the GPU to do that work, whatever it is, if it's shut down, so I think you can incur in losing work, depending on the software and all that jazz. Again, this is not the ideal solution, but again, the fact that this is a hugely flawed design, and they reference here the fact that basically the flimsy nature of the connector, I think it's the weaker part here on this design. Again, my pet peeve, or the main pet peeve with this design is the connector itself, the physical size of the connector. The fact that it is a smaller physical connector than, for example, 8 power pin or 6 power pin PCI Express connector, and delivers like, I can think it delivers 3 times the power. Again, it doesn't. It's not suitable for what we want to achieve there. I think that they should revise this and put a bigger connector, physical connector, so the connection, the surface of the connection itself between the pins and the connector is bigger, so it creates less resistance, so the temperatures to a certain degree are kept in check. Plus the fact that the GPUs already cost a huge amount of a small fortune, they should have like a controller, a balancing controller kind of a thing there, to as an extra safety feature to control the balance of the power from each cable. So it's 16 pins, supposedly it's 12 pins, 6 to deliver power, 6 neutrals or ground things, and plus the other 4 for the sense pins there. That's why it's called 16 pin. But yeah, I think that this should be revised as soon as possible. Ideally, they should revise it before the 60 and RDNA 5 GPU launches, and whatever Intel is planning to do there. I think it should be revised because, or else we're going to continue to manufacturers of PSUs and cables trying to work around the flawed design of this ecosystem of power delivery. But yeah, I think that there should be something to be done about this. Again, this cable is sold apart, so you can, I think, $25. And it's basically compatible with any native PSU that uses the 12-volt 2x6, so it's kind of the refresh on the design there. But yeah, we'll continue to see this until the consortium put their shit together and revise this flawed design power delivery system there. Got other stuff here with GPUs. I think it was misreported to a certain degree that supposedly GALAX was exiting the business, the PC business over the years. Again, it seems that there is a clarification from Palit, which basically owns GALAX or GALAX. And they basically said that it's not that. It's basically they are they are restructuring in a way that again internally it makes more sense to them, it seems, because there is I think GALAX and Palit, they launched their own stuff there. I'm assuming that now they are basically joining together in terms of how they work internally to launch, I assume, something more uniform to the company's operations there. But again, GALAX is not going anywhere, at least according to them. It's just they are restructuring internally in a sense that makes more sense for them. But they will see it, we will see, supposedly, to continue to see the GALAX, the KFA2, and the Hall of Fame stuff there. Again, I think it's just a restructuring, and people assume that basically GALAX was going out of business there. With other stuff here, Xbox, got more details here and there from certain interviews. Again, the CEO of Xbox, I think it's Asha Sarma, sorry. Again, she's been doing some interviews in and there. Especially, we got to see they cut the price of the Xbox Game Pass there, plus other stuff regarding the new device hardware they're going to launch there. Again, it seems that they are approaching this carefully. It seems, again, a lot of it is about communication and how they try to pass the message there. But of course, given all the demands from memory, GPU stuff there, and all that jazz, again, one of the situations is they are supposedly taking a very careful approach regarding the pricing and the launch of this new Xbox Helix, and of course, memory and memory costs will impact the pricing and also availability, by the fact that, again, there is a huge demand on memory chips there. Again, they try to reassure, saying that the number one focus is to focus on what's their control, which is build a great console that plays great games, including your PC games. Again, it seems that they are going through for this generation for some hybrid machine there that can play all the Xbox games plus some PC games. Again, I don't think it's going to work that well for the PC games there. But yeah, we'll have to see what kind of thing they are planning there. But yeah, and supposedly the alpha version or the dev kits for the Project Helix hardware will start going out to developers next year. So don't expect nothing don't expect anything. Sorry, next year. Again, the developers have to work with the dev kits there. Then it's going to be some feedback between the Xbox and the developers there. I don't know, fine-tune hardware in certain aspects and all that jazz. We'll have to wait and see if this comes out in 2028. I don't know. Let's see. Then we got the Steam controller finally as an official launch date, which is 4th of May, and an official price, which is $100 or €100. Again, might seem a little bit on the expensive side, but the controller seems to be a pretty good one. In terms of reviews, I didn't see any of these. I watched the Hardware Unboxed, which they did a controller review, the latency stuff there, battery life, repairability, and again, I think, from what I understand, Valve is making a partnership with iFixit to have the manuals in terms of repairability, like battery replacement, even I think the other modules inside the controller. It seems very repairable, which is very good. For example, the battery can be just basically swapped very easily. And yeah, and also because of that, Gamers Nexus also did a teardown and disassembly of this controller. Again, this controller seems pretty good. It got the HMR instead of All Effect, so it's kind of improved version of All Effect. I'm not sure. I didn't check the disassembly of the video of the entirety of the disassembly, but I'm not sure how the buttons and the triggers are done there. But yeah, hopefully, and it seems a very good controller. Even with a little bit increased price there. comparative to like out of the box Xbox controller. But yeah, it's got some nice features, some good integration with the Steam app, even on PC. Again, it will sell also with a bundle when the Steam machine will come. But yeah, we'll have to wait there for a minute for that to come there. But yeah, very impressive controller, even though, again, the price might be a little bit inflated to some. But I think it's justified by the fact that you usually the main concern with the controllers is the battery stuff there, and this one seems to be very easily replaceable. And again, it seems that eventually you will be able to buy the battery to replace. So there's not going to be a huge concerns in terms of when you need to replace something. And there is some tidbits here from Gamers Nexus that possibly there will be an eventuality of modding the controller, it seems. But yeah, let's see. Hopefully this is, and it seems a very good controller. Then lastly here on, I caught up with this Monday, I think, or during the weekend. It seems that Sony is taking a couple of steps back, it seems, regarding DRM stuff there. Again, we all remember when PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, I think it's called at the time, they launched with the DRM stuff there, and the fact that PlayStation at the time made I think it was with Shuya Yoshida, that said that exchanging games was as simply as to give it to the other player or other person to play the game. But at the time it was the disc itself. But this is more regarding the digital copy there. And again, it's starting to rehash the ownership of digital things, which again, I'm not sure how Sony will respond, because again, this was something that people uncovered by tweaking around with some. I think one of them was they had a PS4 which was unlocked or whatever they are called there. But yeah, the explainer here is yeah, over the last weekend, it was widely reported that Sony introduced changes to the PlayStation DRM policy, which now requires users to connect online every 30 days to continue playing every digital game purchased after March of this year. And again, the company has yet to provide an official clarification. PS4, the PS4 will install. This is a case of a guy that was tweaking around with a jailbroken PS4. He said the PS4 will install a license file for all the content your account owns, regardless of whether or not that content is actually installed on the console itself. And basically, this is a key point if it is true that they are addressing a license exploit. And then this license file installation happens automatically. So if I buy a game on the PS Store website and then turn on my PS4, the license for that recent purchase is automatically installed. Whether or not you can actually use the license for the game is then further controlled by the activation state of your console. For example, if you set to primary for offline play, or whether if you're online and connected to PSN in case of a non-primary consoles. In either case, those license files always seem to be present. And then these PlayStation DRM licenses are valid for an indefinite amount of time for purchases content, 14 days for content from PSN Plus Extra and Premium, and for the duration of the subscription for PS Plus Essential Games. And basically, what has changed now is that new purchases are not being automatically issued a license file with an indefinite duration. Instead, it's being issued basically a 30-day license for the new purchases. And he said that I have 2 recent purchase games. I've been able to test with this. Again, basically, it's what I explained there. It's now basically every new game that you buy on the PlayStation Store, this file is automatically downloaded where you are logged in, and then basically every 30 days or at the end of 30 days, if you don't log in with your console, basically you cannot play the game. Basically, that's what's happening. And then with the only difference being that the refund window for the first purchase, which is the older games, is now closed. Again, it's normal with a 14-day policy there, which prompted the issue with permanent license. It seems that this new PlayStation DRM policy will not be as restrictive as it appears at first glance. Until Sony clarifies the matter, however, it's too soon to say whatever the original Xbox One DRM policy will rear its ugly head again and bring back a DRM policy that is against consumers. Again, PlayStation at the time was very clear when specifically with PS4, which is if you want to sell or give the game to somebody, at least with a disc. I think the license was on the disc itself. I assume so. Now, this part here is more tricky because it's a digital license, which to all intents and purposes you don't own. I think you rent. Again, these terms and conditions and conditions of use usually tend to go about generally in that sense. So, yeah, this is not good. This is not good. If it is so, hopefully it's kind of a bug per se and can be fixed per se as soon as possible, or else I don't know. I don't know if PlayStation. Again, now also depends a little bit how Xbox will, because for sure Asha, the Xbox president there, will be asked regarding this new device, how it will handle the DRM, given that this is blowing up in the interwebs, this PlayStation DRM stuff there. For sure, she will be questioned eventually regarding this and what is the position of Xbox regarding this situation here. And then lastly, I completely forgot, yesterday was the Blood of Dawnwalker kind of showcase, let's say. And now we have, again, I have to be upfront. I still didn't catch up with any of the trailers there. This is basically information here. Again, launches September 3rd. And it got two editions here, $70 for the standard edition. And then again, got a bullet point here regarding what you can do on the game. Again, I already watched from previous showcases that they did. Again, I kind of have an idea what they're trying to do here, so that's why I didn't rush to try and check. But again, on this Gematsu, you got all the story trailer, the gameplay overview, and all the stuff that came out of that event there. The one thing that is noticeable here, because I was not sure when I was tracking this, but yeah, this game is an Unreal Engine 5 game, and we got some also system requirements there. Again, the only good thing out of this chart, even though, for example, ultra native 4K 60 frames, again, you will need basically 5090 GPU and a 7950 at least in terms of CPU, or a 13600K. Again, pretty demanding. Again, Unreal Engine 5 game. I'm not surprised there. Then we got the VRAM here as a guideline. If you don't have the GPUs that are posted here, at least you have a kind of a guideline of if your GPU will be handling well this thing here. Again, the only thing here is this is native 4K, so it's not taking account any upscalers, the demand of the GPU CPU there. And again, as I said, required amount of VRAM applies to all GPUs, not only to the ones listed in the table. Again, so if you don't have a 7900 XTX, if you have a 7900 XT, or any GPU around the kind of performance, older generation, stuff like that, if you have around about kind of the same performance, let's say, and if you have this amount of VRAM, it should be able to kind of reach this target. But yeah, it's not good, mainly because, again, Unreal Engine 5 game, very demanding on the hardware, and you already see some recent launches that use their proprietary engines to do better in terms of what they achieve in terms of graphical wise, and the hardware that needs to reach those target from resolution and frames. So, and again, of course, the quality preset here is ultra. I think if you tone down a little bit here and there in terms of the quality settings there, plus the fact if you use upscaler or not, you might be reaching something similar to 4K 60, but with all the crutches there. But yeah, this is what I got from the new stuff there. I'm just going to wrap up with some gaming deals. We still have Atomic Heart, basically a day or so until it wraps up the deal here. We got Blasphemous, 75% off. This is the first game. We got Chronos the New Dawn, it's still on sale, 30% off. We got Cyberpunk, 65% off, or 55 the Ultimate Edition, which seems to be the way to play this. We got Liza P, still on sale, 50% or 33% with the Overture DLC. We got Planet of Lana 2, 20%, or you can buy as a bundle. I do recommend the first game. I already made a series out of it, and I do really recommend if you like this kind of games. Then you got Silent Hill 2 Remake. It's still on sale, 50% off. And then lastly, we got The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Again, the way to go is the complete edition, 80% off. And again, I will repeat the first playthrough. I recommend vanilla, and the rest of the playthroughs for sure. Some modding can be applied there for sure. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to wrap up here just with a plug my Patreon for extra support. I don't do any exclusive content. I don't plan to do so. It's just a more alternative way if people want to support to do it. So, but yeah, other than that, again, we'll try to do some live stream Death Stranding too. And yeah, other than that, hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. So until then, Kunamy Master out.